Birds are more than just beautiful creatures. They are vital indicators of our environment's health. In Africa, changes in bird populations often signal shifts in ecosystems long before other signs appear. For example, the presence of Abdom stork is linked to rainfall, while raptors at the top of the food chain accumulate pollutants, making them excellent markers for environmental monitoring. As Africa rapidly develops, the need to balance progress with conservation becomes urgent. Birds help us identify areas where human activities must be managed carefully, ensuring that development does not come at the expense of biodiversity. Their behaviors and populations offer early warnings, guiding us toward more sustainable choices. Africa is home to a quarter of the world's biodiversity, including over 2,400 bird species, with more than half found nowhere else. However, the continent's rapid development brings new challenges. Expanding populations and infrastructure, roads, railways, and power lines are transforming landscapes. Unsustainable agriculture and land use are on the rise, putting immense pressure on natural habitats. As cities and industries grow, the threats to birds and biodiversity multiply. It's a complex matrix of challenges, but understanding these pressures is the first step toward finding solutions that allow both people and wildlife to thrive. Infrastructure is essential for Africa's growth, but it can also pose serious risks to wildlife. The continent's push for electricity and green energy has led to more power lines and wind farms. If not carefully planned, these structures can be deadly for birds, causing fatal collisions and disrupting migration routes. While roads and ports are vital for economic progress, their placement must consider the needs of local wildlife. By integrating environmental planning into infrastructure projects, Africa can harness the benefits of development while minimizing harm to its unique bird species. Across Africa, hunting and trapping of birds for traditional medicine, beliefs, pets, and game remain widespread. Species like the African gray parrot are highly sought after, leading to dramatic declines in wild populations. Vultures targeted for belief-based uses face similar threats. These practices, driven by poverty and lack of awareness, undermine conservation efforts. Many communities depend directly on ecosystem services, making it crucial to balance cultural traditions with sustainable use. Addressing these challenges requires education, alternative livelihoods, and stronger enforcement of wildlife protection laws. Despite the pressures of rapid development, there are promising examples of biodiversity conservation in Africa. The BirdLife Partnership works to empower people and promote sustainable development, showing that economic growth and conservation can go hand in hand. Practical projects demonstrate how protecting birds and their habitats benefits both nature and local communities. By highlighting the effects of unsustainable development and the rewards of conservation, these efforts inspire others to join the movement for a more sustainable future. Birds enrich our lives in countless ways. Beyond their role as environmental indicators, they provide aesthetic enjoyment, economic opportunities through ecotourism, and cultural significance in art, myths, and ceremonies. Ecologically, birds control pests, pollinate plants, and disperse seeds. Vultures clean up carcasses, preventing disease outbreaks, while honey guides help people find honey. These ecosystem services are irreplaceable, making birds essential for both nature and people. Protecting them means safeguarding the benefits they bring to our societies. Insect-eating birds play a vital role in agriculture by controlling crop pests. Studies in Kenya have shown that birds significantly reduce the number of harmful insects like aphids and thrips on kale plants. When birds are excluded from fields, crops suffer more damage, leading to lower yields. By naturally managing pests, birds help farmers reduce the need for chemical pesticides, supporting both food security and environmental health. Their presence in farmlands is a win-win for nature and agriculture. Vultures are often overlooked, but their role in ecosystems is critical. As scavengers, they quickly consume animal carcasses, preventing the spread of deadly diseases like rabies and tuberculosis. Without vultures, carcasses linger, increasing the risk of disease outbreaks that can affect both wildlife and people. These birds act as fast-acting biological recycling units, providing waste disposal services valued at thousands of dollars over their lifetime. Protecting vultures is not just about saving a species, it's about maintaining public health and ecological balance. West Africa's coastal waters are among the world's most important regions for seabirds. Species from as far as the Arctic and Europe gather here to feed and breed, taking advantage of rich marine resources. Through projects like Alcyon, BirdLife has identified key marine sites, known as Important Bird and Biodiversity Areas (IBAs), that are vital for seabird survival. Protecting these hotspots helps conserve not only birds but also marine mammals and sea turtles, supporting the health of entire ocean ecosystems. Key biodiversity areas, or KBAs, are sites that play a crucial role in the global survival of biodiversity. In Africa, nearly 2,000 KBAs have been identified, with the majority also serving as important bird and biodiversity areas. However, only about half of these sites have any protection and just a fifth are fully safeguarded. The International KBA Partnership works to maintain and promote an up-to-date list of these critical sites, guiding governments and investors to make decisions that support sustainable development and avoid harmful land use changes. Africa's bird life is facing a crisis. Of the 2,477 bird species found on the continent, 276 are globally threatened with extinction. This includes 29 species classified as critically endangered, such as several vulture species, albatrosses, and unique birds from Madagascar. The loss of these species would mean the disappearance of irreplaceable ecological functions and cultural heritage. It's a race against time to protect these birds and the ecosystems they support. Vultures in Africa are disappearing at an alarming rate. Over the past 30 years, populations of 7 vulture species have plummeted by 97%. 4 species are now listed as critically endangered. The loss of vultures has immediate ecological impacts, as they play a key role in cleaning up carcasses and preventing disease. Without urgent action, these iconic birds could vanish within our lifetimes, with far-reaching consequences for ecosystems and human health. African gray parrot, once common across West and Central Africa, is now in steep decline. Driven by high demand in the pet trade, wild populations have collapsed. Ghana alone has lost up to 99% of its gray parrots in just 2 decades. The species is now listed as endangered, and international trade in wild-caught birds is banned. However, illegal trapping continues, threatening the future of this intelligent and charismatic bird. Not only rare birds are at risk, common and widespread species are also facing declines. In Botswana, monitoring shows some positive trends, with increases in grassland and savanna birds. In Uganda, however, forest species are declining, while farm and grassland birds show moderate increases. These trends highlight the importance of ongoing monitoring and the need for sustained investment in biodiversity indicators to inform conservation decisions across Africa. Mara wetland in Tanzania is a globally important site for birds like the shoebill and migratory terns. However, local communities facing economic challenges have turned to burning papyrus for hunting and access to water. These fires have devastated bird populations, nesting areas, and fish nurseries. Conservation projects now focus on sustainable use, training locals in papyrus weaving and alternative livelihoods to reduce pressure on the wetland and promote its long-term survival. Cross River National Park in Nigeria is a biodiversity hotspot, home to over 350 bird species and 18 primate species, including the critically endangered lowland gorilla. Plans to build a superhighway through the park threaten to destroy its unique rainforest and the livelihoods of local communities. Conservationists successfully halted construction pending proper environmental assessments, but the park remains at risk. Ongoing advocacy aims to relocate the highway and protect this irreplaceable ecosystem. Human activities are the main drivers of habitat loss and fragmentation across Africa. Expanding agriculture, intensive fishing, and ranching put immense pressure on bird species adapted to specific habitats. Rapid economic development often overlooks environmental impacts, leading to pollution, electrocution, and the destruction of unique ecosystems. Addressing these pressures requires integrating environmental considerations into all aspects of development planning. Poisoning is the leading cause of vulture deaths in Africa, accounting for over 60% of recorded fatalities. Herders use poisoned carcasses to eliminate predators, but these baits can kill hundreds of vultures at once. Poachers also poison elephant carcasses to hide illegal activities, and vultures are targeted for belief-based uses. Weak law enforcement means most incidents go unreported. Rapid response to poisoning events is crucial to prevent mass die-offs and protect remaining vulture populations. Zambia's South Luangwa National Park, the use of organophosphate pesticides has led to the poisoning of gray-crowned cranes. These chemicals, easily available and widely used in agriculture, are deadly to birds that feed in crop fields. Large flocks make cranes especially vulnerable to mass poisoning events. Despite evidence of harm to both wildlife and human health, there are no restrictions on these pesticides in Zambia, highlighting the need for stronger regulations and awareness. Ouatamé, an island in the Gulf of Guinea, is home to 20 bird species found nowhere else. 9 of these are threatened, including 3 critically endangered species. Forest loss from agricultural expansion, logging, and development threatens their survival. Even the island's only protected area, the Obo Natural Park, is poorly enforced. Effective protection of these forests is essential to ensure the long-term survival of São Tomé's unique birds and ecosystem. Significant number of important bird and biodiversity areas, IBAs, in East Africa are located near major development corridors, such as roads, railways, and pipelines. These projects pose direct threats to critical habitats, increasing the risk of habitat loss and fragmentation. Careful planning and environmental safeguards are necessary to ensure that development does not come at the expense of Africa's most important sites for birds and biodiversity. As Africa expands its energy infrastructure, poorly designed power lines have become a major threat to birds, especially migratory species. In Sudan, a single power line killed hundreds of birds over decades before being shut down and insulated. Studies show that species like the Egyptian vulture, black kite, and Abdam stork are particularly vulnerable. Addressing this issue requires cooperation between conservationists and energy companies to retrofit dangerous lines and prevent future bird deaths. Plastic waste is an increasing problem in Africa's coastal regions. Poor waste management means that plastics often end up in rivers and oceans, where they harm marine life and seabirds. Birds can become entangled in plastic debris or ingest it, leading to injury or death. Microplastics also pose risks to the wider food web and human health. Improving waste collection and developing alternatives to plastic are urgent steps to reduce this growing threat. The discovery of oil and gas reserves in West Africa has brought economic opportunities, but also new threats to marine biodiversity. Seabirds breeding on islands and coasts are at risk from oil spills and habitat disturbance. Tracking studies show that key feeding areas for species like the royal tern overlap with oil fields. BirdLife is working with governments and industry to develop environmental standards that protect critical marine habitats from the impacts of oil and gas development. Legal trapping and killing of birds is widespread along Africa's Mediterranean coast, especially in Egypt. Millions of migratory birds are caught or killed each year, making the region one of the most dangerous for birds on their migration routes. Indiscriminate hunting affects many species, including quail, sparrows, and orioles. Conservation groups are working to clarify hunting laws, raise awareness, and monitor illegal activities to protect these vital migratory pathways. Poverty is a major barrier to conservation in Africa. Around protected areas like Ruvubu National Park in Burundi, local communities depend on natural resources for survival. Without alternative livelihoods, people resort to poaching, burning, and unsustainable use of the land. Addressing poverty through economic empowerment and environmental education is essential for long-term conservation success. Only by meeting people's needs can we hope to protect Africa's biodiversity. Migration is a natural phenomenon where birds travel vast distances between breeding and wintering grounds. Africa is a crucial stopover for many migratory land birds, but their journeys are threatened by habitat loss, hunting, and collisions with infrastructure. International cooperation, such as the Action Plan for Migratory Land Birds of Africa and Eurasia (AEMLAP), brings together governments, organizations, and individuals to share knowledge and coordinate conservation efforts across continents. BirdLife International's strategy for Africa is built on 4 pillars: species, sites and habitats, ecological sustainability, and people. By focusing on these areas, BirdLife works to conserve birds and their habitats, support sustainable use of natural resources, and improve livelihoods. This integrated approach ensures that conservation benefits both wildlife and local communities, creating lasting positive change. African countries are increasingly aligning their policies with international agreements like the Convention on Biological Diversity (CBD) and the Sustainable Development Goals (SDGs). National Biodiversity Strategies and Action Plans (NBSAPs) now integrate targets for protecting ecosystems, species, and genetic diversity. However, effective implementation remains a challenge. Continued collaboration and commitment are needed to turn policy into action and achieve lasting conservation outcomes. Powering local communities is at the heart of successful conservation. Projects that involve people in monitoring, protecting, and sustainably using natural resources have shown great promise. For example, training local volunteers to count birds and manage habitats not only generates valuable data, but also fosters a sense of ownership and pride. When communities see tangible benefits from conservation, they become powerful allies in protecting Africa's biodiversity. Birdwatching and ecotourism are growing industries in Africa, providing income and incentives for conservation. Unique and rare bird species attract visitors from around the world, supporting local economies and creating jobs. By linking economic growth to the protection of natural habitats, ecotourism offers a sustainable path forward that benefits both people and wildlife. Raising awareness about the importance of birds and biodiversity is essential for long-term conservation. Educational programs in schools, communities, and through media help people understand the value of nature and the need to protect it. By inspiring the next generation of conservationists, these efforts lay the foundation for a more sustainable future. Restoration projects across Africa are helping to revive degraded habitats and bring back threatened bird species. From replanting native vegetation to removing invasive species, these efforts improve ecosystem health and resilience. Successful restoration not only benefits wildlife, but also enhances ecosystem services like clean water and fertile soil, supporting local communities. Young people are increasingly involved in conservation efforts across Africa. Training programs for young seabird officers and conservationists build skills and foster passion for protecting nature. By connecting youth across the continent, these initiatives create a network of future leaders committed to safeguarding Africa's biodiversity. Advocacy plays a crucial role in influencing policies that protect birds and their habitats. Conservation organizations work with governments to develop and implement laws that safeguard threatened species, regulate hunting, and ensure sustainable land use. Persistent advocacy has led to important victories, such as halting destructive infrastructure projects and securing legal protections for endangered birds. Conservation challenges are complex and require collaboration across sectors. Governments, NGOs, businesses, and communities must work together to integrate biodiversity considerations into development, agriculture, and industry. Cross-sector partnerships leverage diverse expertise and resources, leading to more effective and sustainable solutions for Africa's birds and ecosystems. Site support groups are grassroots organizations that play a vital role in conserving important bird and biodiversity areas. By involving local people in monitoring, advocacy, and sustainable use, these groups create a direct link between communities and conservation. Their efforts demonstrate that local action can have a global impact, protecting critical habitats and species for future generations. Increasing the area under protection is a key strategy for conserving Africa's biodiversity. Efforts are underway to designate more national parks, reserves, and community-managed areas. Protected areas provide safe havens for threatened species and help maintain ecosystem services. However, effective management and enforcement are essential to ensure these areas deliver real conservation benefits. Conservation does not stop at national borders. Initiatives that connect protected areas, habitats, and communities across countries are vital for migratory species and ecosystem resilience. Regional cooperation enables the sharing of knowledge, resources, and best practices, strengthening conservation efforts continent-wide. Preventing wildlife poisoning requires a multifaceted approach. Rapid response teams, public awareness campaigns, and stricter law enforcement can reduce the number of poisoning incidents. Working with farmers, herders, and local communities to find alternatives to toxic chemicals is also crucial. These efforts help protect not only vultures but all wildlife and people who depend on healthy ecosystems. In some cases, leasing or purchasing land is the most effective way to protect critical habitats. For example, conservation groups have secured land to safeguard the Taita apalis, a critically endangered bird in Kenya. By ensuring long-term protection of key sites, these strategies provide a lifeline for species on the brink of extinction. Restoring degraded habitats can bring species back from the edge. On Santa Luzia Island in Cabo Verde, efforts to restore native vegetation are helping the critically endangered Ross Ulark recover. These projects demonstrate that with commitment and collaboration, it is possible to reverse declines and restore healthy ecosystems. Conservation efforts can yield remarkable results. The critically endangered northern bald ibis has reached record high numbers thanks to targeted protection and habitat management. This success story shows that with the right strategies, even the most threatened species can recover and thrive. Sustainable rangeland management benefits both people and wildlife. In some areas, improved grazing practices support livestock, pastoralist livelihoods, and the survival of critically endangered birds like the lark. Integrating conservation with traditional land use creates win-win solutions that support biodiversity and human well-being. Africa's birds face unprecedented challenges, but there is hope. By combining science, policy, community action, and international cooperation, we can protect these remarkable species and the ecosystems they represent. Every effort counts, from local conservation groups to national governments and global partnerships. Together, we can ensure that Africa's birds continue to inspire, enrich, and sustain us for generations to come.